You're listening to another episode of the Just Go Bike podcast. That's AKA Murph.
And that's AP. And this is the podcast where we talk about cycling just for the fun of it, with tales from all over the nation. Come for the bikes, stay for the fun, and leave with a smile. Well, hey there, AP.
Hey, Murph.
Today is a big, big day.
That's right. We are just one day away from learning the route for RAGBRAI 50.
Oh my gosh. It's so exciting. Every year it's so exciting to learn the route, but this year just feels different because it's RAGBRAI 50.
So you only turn 50 once, so, it's a big deal.
Right. Yes.
Yeah.
Should we maybe do a quick rundown of what's happening this weekend in case people listening maybe haven't heard all the cool things?
Yeah, absolutely. And I know we don't usually record podcasts where we talk about the specific day and weekend, but this is a special enough occasion. I think that we should pretend like the listeners are listening on the day that it comes out. I hope you are. And if not, well, just skip forward for 15 seconds. So
or just listen in and know that this is what you missed out on the weekend of January 28th.
Yeah. It's going to be so much fun. Okay, so today on Friday, we're going to have a party at the RAGBRAI office.
Yeah,
and
this afternoon.
That's right, our brand new office. Well, it's new to us, office at 501 Scott Avenue in Des Moines. And this evening from 7 to 9, we're going to have a party for the RAGBRAI newbies.
Ooh.
And it is for the newbies, but everyone is welcome to join because we need people there to give the newbies advice.
Yes.
So everyone is welcome. And I'm so excited to see these riders who have never done RAGBRAI before,
right.
And of all the first RAGBRAIs to have 50.
I know, yeah.
Yeah. So it's going to be so much fun just to kind of get to see everybody that we've been talking to online in person and just get excited for the weekend to come.
I agree. Okay, so if we make it through tonight, celebrating, tomorrow is a huge day.
It's a huge day, and we're kicking off the day in the morning with a Zwift ride, which is an online biking program, I guess you would call it. How would you describe it?
Yeah, it's actually a interactive game is what you'd almost call it. Like when you do Zwift biking, you're on your physical bike, but you're looking at a computer screen and you are an avatar on the computer screen.
Yeah.
So you can bike alone or with random strangers. Or this specific ride is pretty darn cool.
Yeah. So it's hosted by our very own ride director, Matt Fippen, and the RAGBRAI newbies in coordination. So it's going to be really fun. And some people are going to be live at the actual expo space for where the Iowa Bike Expo is going to be held in. But most everyone is going to be virtual just because it's kind of difficult to haul your stuff around. But either case, It's going to be at 9 a.m. Central. And if you want more information about it, you can go on the RAGBRAI page. We have it set up as an event. So you can look for that event through our Facebook RAGBRAI page. Or if you're on Zwift already, our group name is RAGBRAI Iowa, and the RAGBRAI and the Iowa share an I. So it's RAGBRAI Iowa.
Okay, cool.
If you want to look it up.
And it's, for those of you who've never Zwifted before, it's pretty fun. And I believe Zwift is a membership-based app, so it's like $15 a month. But you can, if you've never Zwifted before, I'm pretty sure they still offer a 7-day free trial. So you could sign up for Zwift just for this ride. And if it's something that you're not going to do in the future, just make sure that you end your subscription before it turns into a monthly fee.
Yeah, this is not an ad. We're excited about the ride.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, so I am definitely going to be doing the Zwift ride. I am bringing my bike and my trainer, and I'm going to try really hard to actually be at the expo, but if not, I'll be in my hotel room Zwifting.
That's awesome. And during that time, I will be setting up for the Iowa Bike Expo.
Yay!
Which is the next thing on our to-do list, which if you don't know about the Iowa Bike Expo, it's one of the U.S.'s largest cycling expos. It's going to have events. It's going to have bike shops. It's going to have
bike demo area.
Bike demos. Yep. It's going to have all sorts of different vendors, and it's really the kickoff to the cycling season in Iowa for the year.
Yes, and it's from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m.
Yep.
totally free to attend. So get your booty to Des Moines and get to the Bike Expo.
Yeah, it's going to be a good time. The Iowa Bike Expo is hosted by the Iowa Bicycle Coalition and
Yes.
Mr. Mark Wyatt.
Yes.
So,
Cool.
yeah, it's always a really cool event. So
Okay.
then right after that,
Yep.
we get our party pants on.
Party pants. Okay.
Yeah, because it's time for the RAGBRAI route announcement party.
Well, you do have a short break because the expo's
Yes,
over at 4. And then when does the actual RAGBRAI route announcement party start?
at 6 p.m. But if you're going to attend in person, don't get a lot to eat because there are going to be some heavy appetizers.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah. So, and then we'll have free beer until the keg runs out. But I'll tell you, we ordered extra kegs this year, so I hope there'll be plenty of beer. And just the party. The band for this year is the Pork Tornadoes,
Nice.
and we have rejiggered the program so there's more music and less talking.
Okay.
So it's going to be super cool.
That is so awesome. And I'm assuming the tasty beverages will be coming from Big Grove?
That's right. Big Grove Beer.
Yes.
They'll have Tailwind. They're going to have their Easy Eddie, which is really popular. And then I think they're going to have one that they just introduced recently, and I can't remember what it's called, so you'll have to stay tuned
Okay.
to see what that is. But they'll have all sorts of different options of beer and liquor and, soft drinks, anything you want to drink. So
okay. And then I think we've already touched on this in several episodes, but I continue to see social media questions about whether or not the event is live streamed. So should we answer it one more time?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I'll try to be short just because it's really not that complicated. Like I said, we rejiggered the program of the route announcement. So having the live stream in the way it was before would be honestly boring to watch on a computer. And also in the past, we got a lot of feedback that you couldn't hear the speakers because it's so loud in the room. There're just a lot of excited people there. So what we're going to do is we're going to do a modified live stream beginning at 8:30 p.m.
Okay.
And you can find it by going to our Facebook page. It'll be streaming from facebook.com/RAGBRAI.
Cool.
And it will be hosted by Morphology.
It's me. So you get to hear my voice again if you are not at the event. Actually, if you're at the event, you'll also get to hear my voice.
Yeah.
Because me and AP will be all over that place.
That's right. Yep. So it's going to be really cool. So tune into our Facebook page if you can attend at 8:30 p.m. And then we'll party the night away. And then just with the knowledge of the new route.
Oh my gosh. Yes. And we've got 6 months to wait. No, or is it 7?
We have, say, 6 months because it's the end of January.
Yeah.
So,
oh my gosh. All right.
And if you haven't already started training after the route announcement, you got to start training.
That's for sure.
The law. Yep.
And you know, you alluded to this when we first started talking, but I truly wonder how many people will be riding RAGBRAI 50 and it will be their first RAGBRAI. Do you like that in itself will be mind-boggling if someone's all like, "It's my first RAGBRAI."
Yeah. I don't know what percentage it is, but it's quite a few people again this year, and I'm just so excited for them. I remember my first RAGBRAI, and my grandpa dropped my mom and I off on the road, and I was just surprised at how many people there were and like how exciting it was. And I remember just the thrill of getting on my bike among thousands of other people.
Yeah, I remember my first RAGBRAI as well. It was like the late 90s. And I got to give a shout out to Team Stiff. That was the team I was part of. They had this old school bus, which, by the way, they still have that same school bus.
Oh.
And they are still a team, which is crazy in itself. But
that's awesome.
I do remember it was super, super hot that year. You know, we're sleeping in a tent. It was, I probably shouldn't say this, but there were times when it was absolutely miserable. But of course I went back to do it again and again and again. And, you know, I'm getting towards 30 RAGBRAIs coming up. So
wow,
it was, I don't know. It was one of the best experiences ever. And I'm just so pumped to learn about RAGBRAI 50.
Yeah. So, speaking of your first RAGBRAI and my first RAGBRAI, that's a great segue into today's episode.
Agreed. And guess what? Kyle Munson is back.
Yay! Our favorite, or one of our favorites. Sorry, everybody else. We love hearing from Kyle. He's such an incredible interviewer, and his subject is really cool.
Yes. So get ready for a fabulous, fabulous interview with Steve Gaul.
Oh, cool. Who is that?
Okay. So Steve Gaul did his first RAGBRAI back in a year you may be familiar with, 1973.
The first RAGBRAI!
Yes, he did the very first RAGBRAI. I think he was 18 years old at the time.
Wow.
So he is ready to talk about what the first RAGBRAI was like, where they went, how it worked, what they ate, seeing Harrison Call and seeing Clarence Pickard, all of like the famous people from RAGBRAI 1. They had Kyle and Steve had like a scrapbook in front of them. So they were kind of flipping through pictures and telling stories. So this is a really, really good episode. And I think it's a great way to get fired up for those who are getting fired up for RAGBRAI 50.
Yeah, absolutely. I can't wait to hear the stories they have to tell.
All right, here's Kyle.
Well, hello, dear listeners. This is Kyle Munson, and I am coming to you from the town of Slater. Actually, this town was my home for 17 years. I'm back in Des Moines right now. But I'm sitting with one of my former friends and neighbors here in Slater, Steve Gaul. And I'm talking to Steve because I've been meaning to do this for years, to sit down and talk to him about the first RAGBRAI, the first Register's annual Great Bicycle Ride across Iowa in 1973, when it wasn't even called RAGBRAI. It was just the 6-day Great Bike Ride, or the Great 6-Day Bike Ride, right,
yeah,
Steve?
Yeah, that's it. Yep.
Well, first of all, thanks for sitting down with me and doing this.
No problem. I appreciate it too. So,
this is such a bicycle town. We're sitting not too far from the High Trestle Trail.
Right.
And back in 1973, that first RAGBRAI, organized by Don Call and John Karras, came through Slater even. So all the more reason to be sitting here where you live. But I'm holding in my hand a printout from the Des Moines Register, September 9th, 1973, and it's headlined, "List Bikers Who Completed Ride." And it says at least 120 persons completed the Register's Great 6-Day Bike Ride, August 26th through 31st, from Sioux City to Davenport. So these days, this annual bicycle ride is held in July. But this was later on the calendar back then. And you are among these names.
Yes, I am.
So let me go down this list here.
Okay.
Let's see. There's Bill Wurtzberger. There's Ross Hartline. I see David Welter, David Lynn. Let's see here. Oh, there you go. Stephen Gaul, 1404 Fairview, Spencer.
Yes.
So it gives your address.
Yes, it did.
So, let's start from the start. Take us back to, how old are you now, Steve?
Okay. I'm 68.
You're 68 years old. So in 1973, what were you doing in the summer of 1973?
Well, I was working for Allied Van Lines during the week, and then on the weekends I would work up at Manhattan Beach, a resort in Lake Okoboji.
Okay. So you're kind of enjoying the lake life in the summer and everything.
Yeah. And one of the first things I realized was that driving up from Spencer to Manhattan Beach was pretty expensive for gas, for me anyway. And so I bought a bicycle.
Oh, wow. What kind of bike did you buy?
It's a very lightweight touring bike, brand name Filet. I don't even know if they're still around or not.
Wow.
And I would ride that the 22 miles from my house to Manhattan Beach.
That's a good bike
every
commute.
weekend. Yeah. So it turned out that was my training for the bike ride.
And how did you hear about this bike ride So I think nearly everybody who's listening to this is probably aware that these two newspaper journalists, columnists, they were huge bicycle enthusiasts, and they had gotten into their heads, hey, let's get our bosses to pay for us to kind of explore our hobby, and if we have to, we'll invite the readers along, and we'll make a big circus of it. So that's how you heard about it, was probably reading the Register?
Exactly. Sometime in July, I think it was. And so I made plans. I got people lined up where I could stay. Like my grandmother was the first night. Some friends were in Des Moines. A few other places I just camped.
Yeah. So that's something else. Of course, this is a podcast conversation.
Mm-hmm.
Steve has this wonderful scrapbook, and you mentioned that first night. So your grandmother, I think, lived in Storm Lake, which was the first. That was so it went from Sioux City to Storm Lake.
Right.
And so I will we'll put some photos online and everything, but there's this newspaper clippings, of course, as well as like the original maps they handed out to bicyclists, because nobody had an iPhone in 1973.
Oh no!
And so they gave you maps, and then I love it. You have these classic color pictures of here's you and your bike.
Right.
It's like is this a polka dot helmet? No,
It's
a cap.
It's like a railroad cap.
Oh, a railroad cap. Okay.
With red polka dots. I wanted something bright so I could be seen by other people.
That's great. And you've got this classic touring bike, as you said, with the drop handlebars.
Right.
And shoulder length hair, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, I had long hair back then.
And it looks like you have some packs on the back of it too.
Yes, you couldn't. They didn't have any way to haul your own gear, so if you wanted it, you had to carry it with you. And at the time, I was thinking about going bicycle touring the following summer before I started college, and so I had a panner bags on the back, along with a sleeping bag and a small tent. And then a little bag that went in between the front of the handlebars.
Wow. So you were well prepared. So, yeah, as I was saying, I was reading your name on this list of bikers who completed it, 120 or so. Much different from now we're approaching the 50th anniversary RAGBRAI this summer when they say, I don't know, we could have 50,000 or more bicyclists on the road.
Yes.
Much different picture. But what was it? So you heard about this. You had started to get into bicycling. You were commuting to the lake on the weekends. So what was it like when this first RAGBRAI throng gathered in Sioux City? What did that feel like? What do you remember from that, just getting into the event and going there and trying to figure out what's this all about?
Well, first of all, I was kind of excited about the adventure of it, being 18 at the time. Kind of first really big trip away from home on my own and stuff. And then I saw that there were, I'm not going to be one of the only people doing this. There was going to be about 200 or so, seemed to get around there.
Yeah.
And so I was kind of excited then. And I noticed there was people of all ages, from, I think there was some 12 or 13-year-olds on up to Clarence Pickard.
Wow. Yeah. So I think Clarence Pickard, the legendary, he's the yellowed photographs are in your scrapbook here too. Yeah. He was I forget how old he was at the time.
83.
83. Oh, thank you. 83. Yeah. And he wore the pith helmet, and it was almost looked like he was on safari or something.
Right. Yeah. He had a theory about riding when it was so hot, because it was in the 90s most every day. And the pith helmet helped keep his head cool. He wore a long-sleeved shirt and a long pants.
Yeah.
And then one time he got his pants caught in the chain, like most everybody does, and then somebody figured out how to tie it for him and stuff, so he wouldn't get caught up in it.
Wow.
So
I mean, did you ride with some of the same people? Did you get to know people and ride with some of the same people every day, or how did that work in terms of just getting to know these other RAGBRAI cyclists?
Turns out I knew a couple of people from Spencer who were just going to bicycle from Sioux City to Ames, because the classes were going to start in Ames soon for Iowa State. And so the couple former classmates were there, and they were.
Oh, that's great.
So I rode with them a couple times. And a few other times there was one girl who they had handed out bicycle flags somewhere along the way. It was like the second or third day or something like that. And her flag got caught in her spokes. And she was about the same age as me, so I'd stopped and helped her.
Yeah, again, just such a different time. So,
yeah.
I mean, I've ridden every RAGBRAI since 2011, and I spent 24 years at the Register, and I also covered the ride back then. I actually also covered it by car in the 2000s, but so I know the modern RAGBRAI. But we're talking this RAGBRAI that you you were there for the birth. Like, see, nobody was wearing helmets probably.
Right. The only kind of helmets they had were those leather strapped ones that they wore on the Tour de France and stuff.
Yeah.
And I think Karras and Call both had those.
Yeah.
And otherwise, I didn't even know where to get one at the time.
You had your railroad cap, and that
Yeah.
was it. And then there's some other great photos in here, like a view at a campgrounds, which is a very sparse campgrounds compared to how we think of a RAGBRAI campground today. So you were like you say, you weren't in hotels or anything. You were just camping as you went.
Yeah.
Did you feel like you were a young man? Was it easy to do this ride?
Oh yeah, for me, because like I said, I had trained quite a bit for the riding up to Manhattan Beach and back on the weekends. And that got me in good shape for doing that.
That's good.
And
then how did the food work? What did you eat? Was that easy? Were you given food or?
Most of the time we had to buy our own food. I think in one of the towns, some of the churches had food one of the first times.
Oh, okay. So that tradition started from the first year of all these churches making meals.
Yeah. So, and there was one group, I think, we're handing out water and drinks, and they thought, they're going to be maybe about 100 people. Well, that turned out to be one that almost 400 people, the one between Ames and Des Moines. And they ran out of water and lemonade and pop and everything very quickly.
From the very start, the crowds can surprise on RAGBRAI. So did you get the chance to bike alongside Call and Karras and talk to them, or what was that like?
Yes, I did, actually. In fact, I'm mentioned in one of Karras's articles.
Oh, that's great.
I just happened, there was outside Fort Dodge, there's used to be Boys Town. I don't know if it's still there or not. But they had set up a little tent where you could stop and rest underneath in the shade, because it was still, upper 90s at that time. And I was sitting there drinking, and in rode Karras, and he came right over and started talking to me. I told him what I was doing and so who I was, and I ended up in the paper the next day.
Always be careful talking to a journalist.
Yes.
That's awesome.
So
any other highlights that come to mind? Are there things that you've always remembered through the years? I don't know, maybe a goofy roadside scene, or blowing a tire on a particular stretch, or I don't know, just anything.
Oh yeah, I've got a couple of those actually. But yeah, probably the first thing would be meeting up with some of my friends from high school, and they camped out at Dolliver State Park. So we went through Fort Dodge, and we knew that was on the route for the next day. And so we camped out there, and then the 6 of us got together and started bicycling. We didn't take the same route as everybody else. We were some of the, how do you want to say, daredevils? We went on Highway 30.
Oh my God.
We came down 17 and ended up on Highway 30 near where Jordan is now.
Okay.
Or used to be. And it was fun because we were all drafting each other. We kind of got ourselves into a draft line, which I think is now illegal. RAGBRAI.
How was the traffic? Was the car traffic okay?
Traffic was okay. There was wide enough shoulders, so we stayed on the shoulders pretty well. But some got a little close to us. But we made it into from Fort Dodge to Ames, drafting each other that way, in about probably a little over 4 hours.
Good job. Good job.
So that was we kept going. We went fast.
We said earlier, you were talking about, they handed out maps every day. Nobody had smartphones. Again, the modern RAGBRAI is so different. You have there's enough bike traffic that you almost can't lose your way if you want to stay on the route, because you're always following somebody in front of you. They have Iowa State Patrol Station. They have signs. But I imagine it was just you guys in the map, and you had to kind of find your way sometimes.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, which way do we turn now?
Yeah, which way? Okay, that's, yeah. So
did you ever? So sometimes you were intentionally going off a route to take a shortcut or whatever, take a different.
Yeah.
But then, did you ever unintentionally kind of get lost or take a wrong turn?
No, I didn't.
Okay.
I was able to keep on track with most of the other people. But there's a story about Clarence Pickard. I don't know if you heard that one or not.
Oh, tell it. I don't know.
Okay. This is on the 100-mile leg between Des Moines and Williamsburg.
Okay.
Clarence decided he was going to start out early, so he started out like at 6. Everybody else was going to start about 7. And somehow he missed the turn where you go south. He says, well, I got to keep going east. And so he ended up being on Interstate 80. 80. 35. No, 80. 80, that's
80,
right.
yeah, 80,
that's right.
yeah. Going east, yeah.
Going east. And the rest of us turned south and near Prairie City and took the the county roads there into Williamsburg. But
so he took the fast lane.
Right.
So what did you start at 7 a.m. every day, or did that change? Did you ride in the dark, or how did that work?
Well, they originally, I think, wanted to have it start at 8 o'clock every day.
Okay, that's pretty late by modern RAGBRAI standards.
Right, exactly. So they were going to start in mass because there was probably about 200 to 500 people at one time starting out, but compared to now. So you're among this elite group of 120 or so people who finished the very first RAGBRAI. Did you stay in touch with any of these others people from the first year, or ever see them later on in life? No, I saw a couple of my classmates afterwards, but no, I didn't really keep in touch with many of them.
And then did you?
Because I moved to Arizona shortly after.
Oh yeah, so you left the state. And then did you end up writing another RAGBRAI after this?
Actually, yeah, 2 more. Once in 93.
Okay.
And then again, first in 91, and then again in 93.
And that must have been a real trip for you just to see how much it had evolved at that time. I mean, what did that feel like stepping back into it in 91?
Crowded.
Yeah,
the main feeling was crowded. I mean, I was going with some friends from Des Moines and we'd train together, get ready for it. And I just remembered, geez, I can't believe this many people on RAGBRAI. And, so you're always looking out for people. You'd pass people, you'd say on your left or on your right, depending how you're passing them and stuff. So you'd keep track of people. There was a few people would, tangle up on bicycles. Mm-hmm. I didn't have that problem, but at one time I parked my bike and went in and got some drinks, came back out. My bike was in the bottom of a pile of other bikes that had fallen over and stuff. But that's the only problem I ever really had. But
yeah, much different scene than being the only few people in a campground in 1973.
Right.
I'm just paging through this wonderful scrapbook again here, and you see it says, for instance, on Tuesday's trip, we'll begin at the Starlight Motel, Iowa Highway 7 and U.S. Highway 169. It's just amazing how this all played out, and they had to build it up. And so I love this crinkled map that they handed out.
Yeah. Well, I ended up being the crinkler, but
sure. Yeah. Well, yeah. I'm amazed it survived the ride. I don't know if it would survive being on my bike today. That was the. Yeah, and then this group photo of Karras and Call in the foreground and the whole part of the throng behind there.
Yeah.
Here we go. 3 bikers take a break in Monday's heat and splash in Deer Creek near Pioneer along the 60-mile route. So, did you stop and dive into farm ponds and stuff like that?
Not into farm ponds. Yeah. I mean, I did wallow in the creek that goes through Dolliver State Park.
Oh. Yeah, to cool off. Yeah, that sounds fun.
So that way I didn't have to take a shower at night. But yeah. So.
And so again, so much was different back then. This was a 6-day ride, and now today's RAGBRAI takes 7 days to go across the state. So what was it like for you to end that ride in 1973? Was it because now we have all these traditions, like you dip your tire,
Right.
in the Missouri River before you start, and then you dip your tire in the Mississippi River when you end.
Yeah. Was
there a tire dip, or what was the big finish like?
The big finish was we all formed up at the town just before Davenport, and had a police escort all the way in to the main park there.
And then what was it just you ended somewhere downtown and not the river, or what was that?
Yeah,
like?
we didn't.
Okay.
Yeah, there was at the time they didn't dip their tires, but in the last two we did dip our tires.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, that's become a real. Yeah, I mean that's. So many people love to end now at the tire dip, and you have the photos of people holding their bikes over their head, and the teams all lined up in the water, and so it's a lot of fun. Well, I mean, it's amazing. So again, approaching the 50th RAGBRAI, and it's sort of weird. The 50th anniversary and the 50th numerical 50th ride, they converge because we had that gap in the pandemic.
Right.
Otherwise,
2020,
there would have been the 50th ride technically last year. But so it's kind of fun now. It's all now in 2023.
Yeah.
I don't know. What do you think about the significance of this thing surviving for 50 years? How do you, if you explain RAGBRAI to somebody who's never heard about it before, and you try to tell them what the significance is, or like what it means to the state, what do you say?
I say it's a good way to look at the state and see what it's like. Meet a lot of the people along the way. People were always friendly and helpful, especially in the first one. And some people would say, "You're crazy for doing this." But yeah, now I think it helped the bicycling movement along.
Yeah.
Quite a bit, because once they had an organized ride, then more people were willing to try it out. Otherwise, before you'd be on your own, just I'm going to bike up over to here, I'm going to bike to the grocery store, and that might be the end of it. But now you're bicycling all the way across the state.
Yeah, for sure. Another good thing that just to keep in mind is that, again, you were in 1973. It's not like you were texting with people along the way.
Oh no.
Oh yeah. So you make it across, and I imagine then you get home, and then you had to tell the story of this to your family and friends, right? They had all these questions for you. Like, were you calling people along the way, or like keeping in touch, or?
Well, if you look at my scrapbook with the pictures, there's a card there.
Okay.
Near the very front.
Oh, okay. Let me find. I'm thumbing through this.
Yeah, flip it.
Flip it here. I'm flipping through the.
Yeah, right. One more. There.
More.
Flip this down. And you see I have a card which I had names of the people I was supposed to contact along the way.
Oh, okay.
Like Stan Hamill and some other people.
Okay.
That I was going to call and says, "Oh, can you pick me up and give me a place to sleep that night?" It was all arranged, and so I had all the numbers.
So they were able to report back to your family, like, "Oh yeah, Steve got here last night. He's okay. He's a little road weary, but he'll be fine."
Yeah.
Okay.
So.
And then, what did people think when you told them the story of that adventure? I mean, what was the, I don't know, what reaction just from friends and family?
Mostly from my friends is, "Oh, I want to go. And my brother was thinking about going too, but he had a broken arm at the time, so he couldn't go. But he's gone quite a few other ones with him and his wife, and so. The only other question, two more questions actually. One would be, so we have this wonderful picture, and again, we'll put some of these online, but of you and your first bicycle. Do you have that bike still? No, I don't. Okay. It's that broke down training for my second RAGBRAI, and that's when I bought a new bicycle.
Okay.
So.
And did you have any homemade pie on that first RAGBRAI? And you said that, the church dinners, stuff like that. Do you remember having any pie along the way?
Not that I remember. I kind of wish I did, because on the other two RAGBRAIs, I definitely hit pie quite a bit. In fact, my wife kids me that I'm probably one of the few people that actually gained weight on RAGBRAI.
Oh, I think that's most people on RAGBRAI. That tends to be the default condition. So what is your favorite kind of pie? That's something we always end these interviews with.
Oh, dear.
If you had to pick, forced. Clarence Pickard was forcing you to pick.
I'd probably say blueberry. Yeah. That's always been my favorite. But
perfect for a summer bike ride, too.
So
well, Steve, thanks so much for sitting down to finally talk about this. For a podcast interview,
no problem.
Congrats. I mean, it's you're a part of Iowa history to be a part of these 120 or so people to have finished the very first RAGBRAI.
Yeah.
So, thanks again.
Thank you.
Well, listeners, that is it for this week. We both want to thank you for tuning in to listen to the Just Go Bike podcast.
And if you'd like to contact us with a comment about the podcast, or maybe you have a topic in mind, you can reach us at justgobikepodcast@gmail.com, or you can also follow us on social media at Just Go Bike on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.
Please rate, review, and subscribe to this podcast, especially if you're a fan. And if you have any extra time, pop on over to the Murphology podcast for more bike adventure interviews.
All right, that's a wrap. We'll be back next week. Until then, just go bike!